The majority ruling handed down by the Supreme Court more than a month ago struck down the Biden administration's attempt to forgive hundreds of billions of dollars in student loans. Well, there are mixed emotions over the issue, and here to share exactly how that decision affects student loans today is Ray Jones, Vice President of Loan Programs for South Carolina Student Loan. Great to have you with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
So tell us a bit more about your organization.
Sure. So South Carolina Student Loan, we're actually celebrating our 50th anniversary this year. We're a private nonprofit located in Columbia, South Carolina, and we currently do private educational loans for students that are either attending a South Carolina school or any of our residents of South Carolina attending any eligible institution. So basically what we do is help fund gap needs for students that may be receiving other aid in the forms of scholarship grants or federal loans like you mentioned, in order so that they can complete that cost of education and help pay for school.
So these are all private loans, or do you also counsel for those public loans, those subsidized loans?
Yes, we originate only private educational loans. We did do federal loans through 2010. There were some changes in the way those loans were funded at that point in time, so we've been doing just private educational loans since then. However, we do have counselors and advisors that are very well equipped to talk about the federal loan program, both the things that we're talking about with repayment and the processes for obtaining that aid.
Right.
Yep.
Now, a lot of people have opinions about the decision, but ultimately the nation's highest court ruled that President Joe Biden overstepped his authority in attempting to forgive a tremendous amount of debt that many argued would be unfair and burdensome to the taxpayer. And a big misnomer, though, about those loans is that there were many caveats. So it wasn't all student loans. You had to kind of fit in these specific little holes.
That's right. Yes. So there was certainly some different qualifiers depending on income, things of that nature, what you've borrowed. So it wouldn't have been for everyone. It was certainly a large part of the student loan debt crisis. I'll say, it was a hot political topic, and even though South Carolina Student Loan doesn't have any loans that would qualify for that forgiveness options, we were interested in what that outcome would be and watched it over time. Certainly our borrowers tend to borrow federal loans first, so we do have some interest in making sure that we're able to counsel those students and understand, regardless of what that outcome was, that we were there for them to answer those questions.
So just out of curiosity, the decision that SCOTUS came down with, has that affected, or do you anticipate it to affect? I mean, it hasn't really been in place for very long, so maybe it's hard to know what it looks like today, but what do you think is the long view in terms of that decision?
I absolutely think it will impact students. I think there's a couple of things. I think one of the things it might be nice to mention too, along with the forgiveness ruling, it also has some situations that Congress passed that that requires those federal student loans to go into repayment and start accruing interest on September the 1st. For the last 3 years or so, there haven't been any payments due. So our concern with those loans that are outstanding, those balances that are outstanding and that are going into repayment, is that we want to make sure students that either have not made a payment in 3 years, or in some cases that have graduated recently, have never had a student loan payment due, understand what those responsibilities are, but more importantly, they need to understand what options they have, the different repayment plans that are available to them, and what they need to do if they're having trouble repaying their loans or have questions with those.
Right, okay, and this is a great resource. Tell us more about the government's new SAVE plan.
Yeah, Saving for a Valuable Education. It's the newest income-driven plan that's proposed by the administration, by the Department of Education. Scheduled to go into place now. I think they're actually running some beta processes on that income-driven plan. It is, we've seen several income-driven plans in the federal student loan. I think this changes some of those things in that it increases the threshold of students' income, so you'll have more people that qualify for that income-driven plan. And then it does I think, some good things in that it doesn't accrue interest, for example, anything more than that adjusted payment amount, and it reduces the time frame for which those loans are canceled. So for example, in this program, if you're eligible and qualify for that based on your income, after 120 payments, or basically 10 years, anything that's left outstanding would be forgiven by the federal government. So it is definitely comparable to some of the programs that are already out there, but certainly different in some of the criteria, and should expand that eligibility to some additional students.
And it'd be worth mentioning that there are also other products through financial institutions that parents who want to save for college funding and so forth, they can do that.
There are tons. You know, one of the things I would mention about the student loan forgiveness in general, for example, is that what it did bring to light was the fact that we do need to make some changes. Student loan debt's an issue nationally and in South Carolina, and certainly
you can't file bankruptcy to get rid of it.
Federal loans are not educational loans are currently
issue.
not qualified for bankruptcy. So it's not something that you can walk away from. And I don't believe students are intending to walk away from it. I think they need to understand what their opportunities are for adjustments and things of that nature. I would also mention that we need to back up and understand, help students and families understand what their opportunities are before they ever borrow. I think some of those students are not equipped to understand what the responsibilities of those student loans are. And I think if we can help those families figure that out earlier on, it would probably keep some of this student loan debt at bay.
100%. And just with about 10 seconds left, I have to ask you this. For anybody who's originated loans outside of South Carolina, if they seek your counseling services, can they?
Absolutely.
Okay, so it doesn't matter where
anyone
you
can
originated.
contact our office.
Okay.
Yeah, we will whether we lend to you or not. And I would even tell you that whether you need a student loan or not, whether you're going to need a private educational loan or not, our counselors have been doing this. They average 25 years of experience. If there's any questions that someone has, or we can help, whether it be student loan oriented or the FAFSA, the free application of federal student aid that kickstarts some of that aid, we would love to help.
Wonderful.
Absolutely.
Ray Jones, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate your time.
So nice to have you. Thank you.
After this.